Welcome to the NoobTube YouTube channel for day 288. This was the 14th of June, 2023, a Wednesday. So I did Remote Wellness Academy, I did books, I did insurance, and I did a few other projects, and that's basically it. Basically kind of took it easy. I had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of personal business I also took care of. So now continuing my discussion that I was discussing about after I came back from Germany the second time, I was assigned in the year 2000 to Fort Riley, Kansas, and that's when September the 11th, 2001 had happened. I had actually gotten involved with a network marketing company, a travel network marketing company, and I had won a trip to Jamaica because I had, did pretty good in the with sales for this particular company, and I won a trip to Jamaica, and that trip to Jamaica was going to be in October of 2001. However, I was in the military and I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, and I'll never forget the day I was in, Class A uniform, getting ready, getting some of my soldiers ready for the Soldier of the Month board. So, I remember the day that, I'm a little bit nervous because even though they're the ones who were attending the board, if they didn't do well, or if their uniforms were messed up, or if I had overlooked something, then I was going to get in trouble. So there's always like a considerable risk when you put your soldiers, up front, and whether it's a promotion board or the Soldier of the Month board, Soldier of the Quarter board. So, I remember that, we were really checking uniforms and, doing that last minute prep before the boards, because it was going to happen that morning. And this particular place is in the barracks. I lived in the barracks, and it lived like on the third floor of this building, and on the first floor were offices, and it was also where they had the charge of quarters, the CQ office. And during the day, a TV set wasn't allowed in the CQ office, but there had been a report that a plane had hit one of the buildings in New York. So they had wheeled the TV set back out into the CQ office. We were all watching this, live on CNN, watching, one of the towers, the airplane had hit one of the towers. And then I was watching it live when it happened, when the second plane hit, and everybody was just like this, oh shit, like this is not an accident, because the first plane hitting, is probably an accident, but when the second plane hit, that's no accident. We knew right away what was going on. And then shortly, afterwards, there was the attack on the Pentagon, and I went back upstairs to my room, and I called my mother, and I said, Mom, we're under attack. And she's like, what are you talking about? Turn on the news. And, and that was the day. And then, nobody really knew what was going to happen as a result of that. We knew that we were at war. We didn't know who we were at war with. Obviously I didn't, there's no leave, no vacation plans are going to take place when this was all going down. So I didn't go on that trip to Jamaica, but nor would I want to. Because I think like this is serious business. I had already been in the military since 1989, and this is 2001. So it's had a good, a good 11, 12 years in the military already when 2001 had happened. So, in fact, I was, my first tour, I had the first Gulf War. I was in Germany the whole time. I didn't deploy to Saudi Arabia, but I had done my fair share of guard duty. We had 12 hours of guard duty, and then you had to go do another 6 hours at work. So it was exhausting. I mean, it's like I didn't get any real benefit for doing that. But we still had to have guard duties and installation security over in Germany because the threat of terrorism, was very prevalent there. So I remember at Fort Campbell, just initially, they had pulled me to the side and they were like, "We're going to have you, we are keeping you as an option for casualty assistance, and one of the responsibilities that I would have would be, because nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. One of the responsibilities would be helping to prepare casualties, dress dress cadavers, dress fallen service members in their Class A uniforms, getting all the ribbons and all the everything correct on their uniform for burial. And I remember that, and when they were telling me this, and I'm just like, oh God, that's something that I don't want to do. It's an honor to do that, but it's not something that I would want to do, But I would do it. Fortunately, nothing ever came. It was only that one conversation that they had said that this was going to potentially happen with me, and that they had identified me as this is what I would be doing. But fortunately, nothing more came of it. So I didn't, nothing came of it because things sort of settled down. They needed time to figure out, who the enemy was and what the response was going to be. But in the beginning, like the first couple of days, like right after 9/11, we're ready to, defend our country. So it was an interesting time up until September the 11th, because when I had enlisted and actually enlisted in 1988, in December of 1988, and went to basic training in 89, and then went into the regular army in 1990. After like 92, 93, Bill Clinton came into office. The wall had already come down in Germany. The Berlin Wall came down, and there was this push to draw down the military. So when my first reenlistment, generally when a person is going for reenlistment, they get pretty much whatever they want. They get station of choice. Oftentimes they get a bonus. But I had bad timing because when it's come time for my reenlistment, they want to draw down the force. So 92, 93, they were like, we're not letting anybody reenlist because we need to draw down the force. And in order to reenlist, you had to get a brigade commander's override. That's a full bird colonel override. Brigade commander had to sign off as an exception. And then if you had that, you only got to reenlist for the needs of the Army. So I didn't get my first, reenlistment option. So, but anyway, the military has to be prepared, even when the threat of war is so remote. We're supposed to be trained as if, war is coming tomorrow, and that's how it's supposed to be. And that's the way it needs to be. It's readiness. It's being ready to fight at any time, in any place, under any conditions. That's what your role as a military person is. So for most of my, the first half of my service, other than the first Gulf War, which seemed to end relatively soon. I mean, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and we went in and liberated Kuwait, and then they let him go, and then there was, that lasted for maybe like 15 months, from start to finish, and then it didn't resurface until after 2001. When Bush George W. Bush became president, and after 9/11, that's when we were like, we're not going to wait around again for this guy. So I understand that, at least that's my understanding of that, of what happened. But yeah, that was basically it. So that was it was a very sad experience to see, the attack of September the 11th, and it was a very memorable time stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. So Fort Riley, Kansas, not really too big of a fan. It's far away from home, far away from where I lived. My mother lived in New Jersey, and then shortly thereafter, everybody moved to Florida. But Fort Riley, Kansas is like in the middle of the state of Kansas. There's not a whole lot of stuff around there to do. So that was my experience at Fort Riley, Kansas. I did get to tour. We went to, there's another military base, Fort Leavenworth, is also in Kansas, and got a chance to tour the United States Military Disciplinary Barracks. And, they have a new confinement facility now, but that is where that's the only DoD maximum security prison is at Fort Leavenworth. And not to be confused with a penitentiary, U.S. penitentiary in Leavenworth, which is in a different place in the same town of Leavenworth, Kansas. But like for soldier professional development, they had driven us one day out there, to the old prison, and it's a scary place. You look up and there's just bars all over the place, and I guess if you have to go to prison, a military prison, as they say, it's extremely safe, it's extremely clean. The food is supposedly really good compared to other federal or state prisons. Military, they run it just like the military runs it. So it's military chow. It's the same. Military doesn't believe in using food as a disciplinary tool. So the food that the prisoners eat is the same kind of food that soldiers would eat. So, but they keep it really clean, and it's supposed to be very safe and secure. And a lot of people prefer to be, if you're going to go to prison, they prefer to be at Fort Leavenworth. One thing about military confinement versus civilian federal, there's no federal parole anymore, but there is still parole in the military system. So the military prisoner can get either clemency, they can apply for clemency, or they can apply for parole. Where in the federal system that doesn't exist anymore. After offenses committed after a certain date, they don't have that anymore. Anyway, that's all on the side. I thought that was interesting. That that was one of the more interesting professional development that they had us all go out one day, take a bus out there to Fort Leavenworth and take a tour of the confinement facility there. That was pretty interesting. And that, and like also my barracks room, these ancient barracks that they had. I had my own room at Fort Riley, Kansas, but there were bats in this building. There was a whole bunch of bats, and bats, are a protected mammal. Bats are actually mammals, and bats are protected. Scary things, but they're the good guys, really, because they, they're nocturnal, and they're, they keep, they eat things that, without the bats, we could be overrun with other kinds of things that we wouldn't want. But I know one day there was a bat in my room, and it was just like, up on the top of my ceiling, and I couldn't sleep because I was afraid this bat's going to bite me or something. So some other soldiers helped me, get the bat safely, and humanely, and take it out, out of the room, and then release it, outside. And that was the only time I had a problem with that. But that was kind of scary, But yeah, but bats can carry disease and can carry rabies, but they are protected, and they are the good guys. But they had a lot of bats at Fort Riley and the old barracks. So just some useless knowledge there for you. Thanks very much for watching this episode. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.